And so, our long-ass conversation continues. Indeed, I am always at your service. What times are these? These are unimportant times, detective. She puts her finger to her lips, then points at you. You and I were born after the dust had settled, 1,000th of a second too late. Too late for what? For the big time. Her eyes light up. There's a flash of teeth. What's the big time? The revolution, she says. Huh. And what is this revolution I keep hearing about? It's quite easy. Every 100 years or so, our species gets together to decide what's next. Who gets shot in the head and who gets the mineral rights. It's a real kerfuffle. Would you say it was a bunch of apes duking it out? Why, of course. We're talking Duke Out Central, full swing intra-species warfare. And the apes, were they evil? No, I would say the apes were neutral. She looks at you, her gaze sharp. Sounds like evil to me. On the other hand, she turns north to the bombed-out buildings lining the waterfront. Maybe you're right. Who got shot in the head? Those would be the communists. Generally speaking, 40 million people got shot in the head during the World Revolution. But the communists, they all got shot in the head. Oh, the anarchists too. They shot them as well. So, well, one forgets they even existed. Damn. And the anarchists are more reasonable than the communists. Did the communists and the anarchists shoot back? Did they ever? Before they got themselves shot, they shot 2 million people. Truly a kerfuffle. It was a kerfuffle, all right. The lieutenant mumbles from behind his notes. Yes, the Insulindian deluge, they call it. I had a deluge too, in my head. I see. Yes, a deluge of geopolitical questions. Anyone else get shot in the head? On the opposing side? Oh, lots of people. Even the king got shot in the head. Or thrown beneath a horse, or drowned. Accounts differ. It was unceremonious. She shakes her head. Just as well, he wasn't actually the king, just the king's nephew. The real king abdicated and lived out a long and productive life as a venture capitalist in Grad. Smart king. I mean, it's hard to argue that. It's not a value judgment of good or bad, it's just smart to run away from the revolution that would have shot him in the head. And then live a long life of being rich. Yes, King Guillaume had a nose for bad PR. He ran before it... What is the expression? Went down? Wow, what a thing to pause before. Anyway, Gil got out alive, and his nephew Frizzle got shot in his place. Him and tens of thousands of his wonderfully fascist kingsmen. It was a wild time. Who got the mineral rights? The liberals got the mineral rights. She looks up to the sky. Then inland at the crumbling city. And by mineral rights, I mean everything. Okay, and by liberals you mean? Liberals are usually middle-class people, detective. Or the remaining gentry. The beneficiaries of pre-revolutionary arrangement. Some were rich enough to stay with the Constitution, with monarchy. Big mistake. Others bet on the revolution. They were called the ultras or ultra-liberals. That they fared well. I'm just going to assume the typo. How did the liberals win it all? They didn't win so much as survive. We were the last ones standing when the war ended. Everyone else got shot in the head, remember? She's one of them, of course. Everyone got shot who was there to surrender to. To foreign intervention, the coalition, those people really took the mineral rights. Wait, you just said the liberals already took everything. The liberals took everything that wasn't nailed to the ground. The coalition took the ground. She stomps her rubber-booted foot. The ocean, the laws, the people. Who are the coalition? The coalition of nations. Grad, Mesk, Vesper, Messina, Orange, and Sur-la-Clef, the armed center of the world. They landed here and ended the revolution. It was the moralist thing to do. Moralist? The moralists believe in keeping everything exactly the way it is. They believe in mineral rights and not shooting people in the head. At least, not in the same manner and volume as the others do. They are the long-standing provisional rulers of Revicol now, the coalition government. Okay. I finally got context for the fourth word that I didn't know the meaning of, or I wasn't sure what they meant by that. I don't really hear moralist coming around. And kind of a fucking throne to claim for yourself. We're the ones who have morals, they claim, by calling themselves moralists. That seems to be the implication, and I'm like, the fuck does that mean? That's what everyone who has an ideology claims. I was like, okay, communist, fascist, ultra-liberal, I can get these three to some extent. And then I'm like, moralist. I'm like, the fuck? I'm like, okay, moralists are centrists. So yeah, fuck them. This is their special administrative region. They embolden the RCM with crumbs of the same law they took. Technically speaking, you are a moralist. No! Encyclopedia. The color of moralism is blue. The official model of the Moral Intern, or Moralist International, is a blue forget-me-not, a piece of the gray sky. Unofficial. For a moment, there was hope. For a moment, there was hope. I don't think I'm a moralist, ma'am, or not just technically, practically. For a moment, there was hope. You can say the line. Or you can say, if always picking the option that doesn't commit to anything, then hell yes I am, and also not. I don't think I'm a moralist, ma'am. Of course, she sizes you up. Not easy to be moderate about head shooting in your line of work. Rudy tooty pointy shooty! Rudy tooty pointy shooty. That's the way of history, she nods. When was this kerfuffle? The turn of the century revolution, she smiles mischievously. Don't answer it. It's a trick question. The revolution began in '02, on the Grada Sola, though by the end nearly the whole world had gotten involved. Who started it? It wasn't a who, but a what. A pandemic of Zarath. Zarath? A particularly virulent prion disease, with the authorities in Grad proved unable to contain, when Mazov came along and overthrew the government. What did this Zarath do? It made people overthrow their governments. Wow, really? Of course not. It was a highly infectious microorganism that destroyed brain tissue. The actual causes of the revolution were material. The pandemic only provided the spark. It was a funny time in history. They discovered transistors in rock music, but they didn't know anything about prions. Nobody did. Where did it spread from there? From Rivashol and Grad? Not far. The world managed to cauterize itself. Mazov's government was overthrown in '08, and the coalition crushed the Rivashol commune 2 years later. It was the end. What came next? Why, you and I, officer. She spreads her arms, raincoat flapping in the wind. Our lives in the Special Administrative Region. What is the Special Administrative Region? A city-state divided into free market zones under the everlasting interregnum of the Coalition of Nations. And you, of course, the Citizens Militia. The Special Administrative Region is the third incarnation of Revachol, after the failure of the Suzerain and Commune. What happened to the rest of the world? Modernity. They developed the marvels of inter-isolary communication, telematic milieus, radiation, colored plastics. Meanwhile, in Revachol West, the aftermath continues for the 5th decade. 51 minus 8 equals 43. You're saying it's been like that for 43 years? Time flies. What have we been doing all that time? The 20s saw a decade of urban war. West of the river leveled, offshore platforms in flames. Still, it's regarded as an improvement on what came before. 08 and 19 was simply hell. And after that? The 30s? Things settled down in the 30s. Revachol East transformed itself into the world's largest tax haven, with the international community's blessing. For the first time in a long time, it seemed like things were going somewhere. Were they? Were they? Unfortunate typos. A lot of text in this game, though. No. It was a market mirage fueled by cocaine and quantitative easing. The 40s dispelled it like a cold splash, an isola-wide hangover, you might say. And here we are, she curtsies. Task complete. Get a reality lowdown. Boom, level up, baby. I can use that. There we go. Good job getting a good lowdown, huh? We're just knocking it out of the park. Let's get some brain turned on. Alright, unlockable. Foop poof. Confirm. Alright, so my brain thinks this is the most important thing to do. This feels like the most important of all the thoughts, the one you must truly complete. It's all the weird things where I can't grasp the world around me, it seems. Might be worth doing. Obviously, we have all sorts of tasks we're trying to get to. But I have a bandwidth that I have to deal with. What did I get here? Oh, it's just saying I leveled up, right? Welcome to reality, baby. For her to be where she is, Wild Pines Group must have picked the right side. Which side was Wild Pines Group on? They picked the winning side. That's why they're here, and others are not. They got lucky. Perhaps I wouldn't have turned out the way Perhaps it wouldn't have turned out that way had I been in charge. I might have been on the king. Bet on the king and led the Pines to doom. You would have sided with the king. I would have sided with the cannons. If you had seen the calibers of the things, you might have too, she thinks. Perhaps it's better I was born when I was. 10 of the 14 Indo tribes got it wrong. Feld, Kupri, Tricentennial. So, I suppose I would have been in good company. What would you have done differently? Good question. She cranes her neck. What would you have done differently? $400 million deaths, Jesus Christ. I asked you, who are you in all this? And I asked you, philosopher detective of the Citizens Militia. Huh. would have sought a medical solution. Sounds like Sareth drove those people mad. A cold creeps up your spine, reaching its tendrils up your neck toward the back of your head. So a quarter of humanity, she calculates, simply lost their minds. And how would you stop a prion, a complex folding protein, unlive with the technology 50 years ago? I mean, the other options aren't great. Kill hundreds of millions of people, or just be like, I would have come out on top by being all calculating like the real king, or being like, I don't know. Okay, maybe it's impossible. What happened had to happen and always will. The wind stops, and for a moment there's silence. The charge dissipates into the dark water. All is quiet on the Martinez Inlet. Perception. A dog barks. A gunshot echoes off the walls of some distant building. A woman's voice. Always. Always, she nods. That's the can't-do attitude that truly defines late modernity. You may prove a modern man yet. The lieutenant puts down his notes for a moment. Opinions expressed here do not reflect the official position of the RCM. She turns to him. And what is your official position, Lieutenant? Did I accidentally become a centrist? No, I put a centrist saying. The other alternative. I don't know. I backed myself into a corner of like it's kind of hard to be like I would have magically fixed the entire plague, but also the plague wasn't necessarily the problem. I feel like none of the solutions were necessarily actual solutions. So I was iffy on basically every answer. My position, ma'am? My parents got ripped to shreds in the revolution. I would have gone the same way. I was saved by being 2 years old. That's my position. The abattoir. Understandable, she nods. That's enough about the times. They are what they are. Who knows? The afterbloom may yet come. Anyway, enough sentimentality. Is there anything else you want to know? Not so fast. Who is she in all this? Ask her who she is. She owes you an answer. I want to know what you are. She hums. She won't maneuver her way out of this one. What are you? I am the vilest of the vile, she says in a sudden flash of teeth. A traitor. A devourer of nations and infants. I am an ultra. She raises the corner of her mouth, smirking, revealing a canine. Dios mio, draw across, a liberal. Yes, she nods slowly. I am the nether creature of the forbidden swamp. I pushed the king under a shit wagon and betrayed the revolution. My kind surrendered the nation to financial colonists. I can see you thought we'd gone extinct. After all, no sane person identifies as an ultra-liberal anymore. Not in broad daylight. She looks into your eye. You're a centrist at heart, a real moralist, no? Tell me. Now that I've uncoiled myself, do you find me frightening? In her green eyes, you see a mixture of truth and self-satire, decades of guilt and pride. I love that description. I forgive you, but only because you're charming. A Deul, she pronounces, who being of great charm and guile sneaketh into the homes of the godly. Vile Deul. Alright, let's just Google this one because I don't know what the fuck my character's saying. Vile Duel. Will I even get a result? Is it devil? That hath vedem galax that vile deal. Was that the Queen's Arcadia, a pastoral trago comedy presented to can't see the what's the rest of the title? I can't see the rest of the title, you asshole. That hath vedon me, Calax, that vile dehu, who is indeed the calf of all my grief, for which I now fuck it, this is unreadable, and it's not in English. It's all like distressing, outdated, or who knows what. Oh, I can see the rest of the title now. A pastoral tragicomedy presented to Her Majesty and fuck another ellipsis. Where's the part of the screen where the whole title shows up? It's so long. It's such a long title. Can I you can control F this. Can I go into just it's text now mode? Oh shit. I'm trying to have a fun time here. Plain text. Yes. File. Day. We're all having fun here. Oh shit, I should pause the game. There we go. If I'm gonna go off on a tangent here and have fun with this. You know, you didn't turn the part I wanted to be plain text into plain text, you asshole. How are you control F-ing the text, but can't turn it into plain text? Oh my god, page image, it got so much worse. Who indeed the calf of all my grief, for which I now but oh, what can fic do for to cure that hideous wound? My lips have given my confidence, which I feel is. This is when was this written? Holy shit! This is impossible. Called this the Queen's Arcadia. It's just the quote I get for what we're saying here. 1562 to 1619. Fuck. Has anyone transcribed it, I wonder? This might be, oh, this one's transcribed. Yeah. Maybe I can search the word duel now. How do you pronounce duel? Maybe I can't search it. I'll take fucking let's just do Google Translate. They'll give us something to work with. I'm guessing vile devil though. It's Romanian, according to Google. But it doesn't translate, so thanks for your help. It thinks it's Romanian, but it doesn't seem to have a translation. Vile duel. We're completely on tangent now, but I'm having fun here, so whatever. Vile. I think this is it? Yeah. A woman's grief in all points as he hath. Why this is strange that by thy very pulse he should know all as I ail, as well as I. Beside, I fear he sees too much in me, more than I would that any man should see. My thought, although I could not well conceal. There's a lot of words that some of these words, when I say them out loud, you're like, oh, that's probably this other word, but that used to be spelled this way. And other ones, I'm like, I don't know how to pronounce that, so I'm fucked. And there's a lot of other ones that I don't even know what I'm looking at. His words, he spake so learned and so strang. He said, I had misrelled my body much, as my body much. Why is it a weird little dot? I had misrolled my body much, as if he meant that in some wanton sortie I had abused my body with some man, Oh, how should he know that which is my pulse become the intelligencer of my shame? Or are my looks the index of my heart? Sure, so he said, and methought too he named Menelkaz, or what else thing very like, and likewise named that cunning treacherous wretch that hath undone me, Colax, that vile devil, who is indeed the cause of all my grief, for which I now seek physic, but oh, what can physic do to cure that hideous wound my lusts have given my conscience for, which I can't do this anymore. It's just, eventually it says like my heavy load, but it's all spelled like Heauylloade. There's a lot. Interesting little interpretation of how fucking language just morphs so much over time that, like, this seems to be an older version of what we're used to dealing with now, but almost every other word is just morphed into a different spelling or pronunciation or meaning, and so it all becomes unrecognizable, and you need a scholar to dissect it. And on top of it all, it's poetry, so I'm double fucked. Vile devil, I'll just assume. I hope so. I hope we are able to continue as friends despite my scary bulk and the insanity, bloodshed, and transfer of wealth that took place here. It was not the plan all along. Yeah, well, I was like, yo, what about the proletariat? And then my mind was like, well, we're gonna have to do a lot of mass shootings now. And I'm like, excuse me? Did I get another point? Nope, not that time. I was worried that forgiving her was also being interpreted somehow. This is fun. When the dust settled, the liberals were the only ones left to clean up the mess. By virtue of their survival, they were handed enormous power to shape the future. She turns her gaze to the Delta. This was all our last generation managed. What would you have done differently? With due respect to our overlords, the eternal caretaker government that keeps Martinez a monument to that efficacy of its artillery. While a gentle wind sweeps the streets in rebuilt east, light drizzle washing it clean, lights go up and motor carriages circulate the tracks. I would not have relinquished sovereignty to the coalition, not here in Martinez, and not in the Stella Maris or Delta beachheads either, if not for my own sake. She realizes her small, cold fists are clenched. She loosens them. Then for my daughters. We had an obligation to defend our sovereignty. We should have burned the whole Isola down rather than let them have it. You're a patriot? Yes, I suppose I am. But I wouldn't be a patriot anywhere but here. Seditious talk, ma'am. Kim puts down his notes and gives her a look. You have daughters? Yes. Whatever else I am also a mother and a wife. She closes her eyes, then opens them again. Now, shall we return to reality? What is something? Think of something close to you. Come on, cop brain, go! You failed me. It remains a mystery what you mean by something close. This isn't about you. It's about reality. Conceptualization. Reach for something fundamental. Come on. Reach deep down inside and nope. A strange coldness comes over you. As you look at the world, the waves sway the sloop slowly. That's all. The doubt is fully formed in your head. The alien feeling persists. You just can't word the question yet. You have to complete the je m'en veux thought first. Ah, that one. So this one, once I can realize this one, it's gonna After 3 hours of this, I'm gonna like have some sort of big breakthrough for the skill check apparently. What is this? Spread your hands. A bird? She tilts her head. A sphinxid, a flightless bird of the polar regions. Am I really that awkward? Of course you're not, my dear. I'm just terrible at guessing games. I meant, what is this place here? Ah, she spreads her arms almost as wide. This is the pier of Rue de Saint-Ghislain 33A, where the tenants have been kind enough to rent me a slot. Or two. She glances around. She took the whole damn pier with this mega boat. What is Rue de Saint-Ghislain 33A? A pre-revolutionary tenement. Old buildings are called tenements, you see, and new buildings are bâtiments after les bâtiments nouveaux, but 33A and 33B are not nouveaux. They're old. She looks up at the crumbling facade. This one used to be 8 or 10 stories tall, a real high-rise by the standards of the late century. Built to mirror the skyscrapers across the bay in the delta. That was before the war, of course. Who lived in them? Mostly the urban middle class, I believe. This was once the primo real estate, before the cannons lopped 4 or 5 stories off. Holy fuck, she can hear us from there? I guess what sound carries over water. Splat, splat! From a dilapidated balcony, Cindy the Skull gives Joyce the evil eye, her red paintbrush held to her throat. This might be part of why she doesn't want to leave that boat. You could be wrong, but from here it appears she's running the brush across her throat in a sawing motion. Wonderful. What is that? Point to Cindy the Skull. The girl in the old lady rags? Yes. Looks like a sullen, rebellious member of a teen infraculture. Infraculture? And the clock strikes midnight. Yes, you and I belong to a supraculture. We're common, the herd. The music on the radio, the food in the chain restaurants, those are all too popular for the girl in the old lady rags. She prefers a fantasy world, an infraculture, with its own dress code and vernacular. It is an illusion, I'm afraid. There is no refuge from the supraculture. I understand everything. Make it more complicated somehow. I can't. That's how simple it is. One may dye their hair green and wear their grandma's coat all they want. Capital has the ability to subsume all critiques into itself. Even those who would critique capital end up reinforcing it instead. She pauses to take a long, leisurely sip of tea. Alright, what's next? This is just a fucking leisurely stroll for her. She's having fun. Suddenly you're not so sure you're part of the superculture. I think I may be part of an infraculture. Her eyes go around with surprise. And what would that be? I don't know, I just feel it. Ah, yes. That is what counts, I suppose. For my part, I was more of a new girl. The new? The new, a cultural era. And the name of the decade it ravished, the 30s. It came out of the post-revolutionary Revachol. It was ultra-liberal. It involved lots of partying, as you might imagine. The champagne colored everything. But the thoughts of it, by the looks of it, that would have been when you came of age, now? She raises an eyebrow at you. That's all for now. Glad to have been of assistance. The little that I know. Anything else I can do? Thank you. That's all for now. Of course, Detective. Take care. I want to keep going, but it's midnight. I actually genuinely need to deal with this whole sleeping situation. I think they said that everyone starts passing out at like 1. Or everyone's at bed by 1. I imagine people like the thrift store and the place you sleep tend to like persist But, you know, first playthrough, first day. Don't really know what I'm doing right now. But, boy, she is a learned one and also an articulate one, and there's a lot of ground to cover if you want to pick her brain, maybe for multiple episodes, which is kind of productive to the original mission of just kind of taking a quick break with another character because we had a few hours to spare, as far as I could tell. For all I know, this game gives you a score based on how long you sleep that affects how well you do the next day, so for all I know, I fucked myself there too. But anyway, he's still here. And that guy's still there. Wheelchair lady's gone. Ah, sleeping guy's gone. Interesting. But most people are gone. And these people are not interactive.
Can I help you?
I have your money. You have style choices. You can give them the money and just say, here it is. You can slam them on the counter. Hope you choke on it. Or apologize. I mean, it is in character. Here it is. Sorry for the trouble. I am trying to not make him charge me more constantly if I can. Hey, that's another level right there. Neat. Great. Thank you, officer. That's all I wanted. Payment for services rendered. If you continue to stay here, I just ask that you please pay our nightly bill in advance, starting tomorrow. I'll unlock the electronic lock to your room. He taps his foot against the metal box installed in the back of the bar counter. All the doors lock automatically at 21 o'clock. Oh shit. I guess he lets me in though anyway, or he has this time. But apparently I need to get into bed by 11 if I don't want to hit him to let me through. Please pay each night in advance starting tomorrow. 20 real per night. Ah. Seemingly affordable, although it's like the grand total of all the money I've been able to accumulate over the course of the game so far, so either I'm gonna have to ramp up my income or I'm not gonna be able to spend money on anything besides my sleeping. He opens his wallet. I'll take a room here too. Of course. He takes the money and hands him the keyring. Always happy to have officers from the RCM as guests. Anything else I can do for you? Goodbye. How am I going to... Am I going to eat eventually? I haven't had food all day, and I don't think I was taking care of myself beforehand either. So every day we need to deal with that. But then tomorrow at around... after 21 o'clock it automatically locks. If I pay in advance I should be in a good situation though. I don't know, I gotta meet with this guy after 21 o'clock, so clearly that must be doable. For the smoker. And then sometime tomorrow... Alice will have the information on the victim's number. I do like that there's these things to give, they kind of give me an indication via this clock icon that I should check out those particular icons on a regular basis if I don't remember what they are, because they have a time aspect. Oh, we have another level, so I can process more of this brain shit. Don't you love brain shit? Rigorous self-critique or Mazovian socioeconomics. I mean, if I'm gonna embrace this, we better get busy. Boom. That screen's gonna fill up fast, and then I'm gonna have to actually start spending skill points to get rid of things. Low on morale, put points into volition. Seems to both be your morale and your morals. She came to the conclusion that I'm a centrist, which is interesting, but okay. I have 6 points of sorry. Oh yeah, those are the ranks. Superstar cop, apocalypse cop, sorry cop, and boring cop. I didn't say it right away because I wanted to let it play out. But when I looked up the word to find out if it had any larger context, which I guess I can't find it right now anyway. I don't know. I don't remember what I was looking up anymore. But the word that describes those ranks, when I looked it up, the first result was like, how dare Disco Elysium call me boring? Thankfully, boring's third place. But yeah, I'm not much of an apocalypse cop apparently, which it's hard to even describe. I don't know. One of the takeaways for me is that these are 2 different categories of 4 different things, where basically all of the things seem like negatives. which is like, so like no one's coming away feeling particularly proud of the way the game ranks them, because none of these are necessarily positive things. I guess superstar sounds kind of positive, but you're really kind of like this full of yourself swagger drunk ass lunatic man, so it's not really a great thing. Similarly, the liberals don't come off well in this game in their own definitions. But also, if people are confused by me not wanting to be considered liberal, leftism and liberals are not the same thing. In fact, they're not even really, like liberalism is closer to centrism, so it gets a little confusing. If you're conservative, you probably talk about leftist spheres in very reductive terms where you kind of conflate them all with each other. But also in recent politics, the window's been shifting to the right more and more, as far as the overall rhetoric goes and so on. So the crazy radical leftists are like, the people that are being called radical leftists are usually people that are like centrist liberals, and calling those people crazy lunatic people that are on the fringe, and oh my god, they're gonna kill us all with their crazy radical thoughts of incredible centrism, is that you then make it seem like anything lefter than that is like actually dangerous, because even the conservatives already call the centrism radical leftism, but that's just a strategy. That's just all a political strategy to delegitimize any kind of thought in those areas by, well, I mean, that's what you do. You call things radical and dangerous if you don't want people to talk about it and second guess the idea of discussing these ideas. This is the door to the room you redecorated. Good night, Lieutenant.
Just a moment. We should talk about our progress on the investigation. Let's go out to the balcony.
I'm a little worried about how much time we have left and what effect that might have on me, but okay. Alrighty, let's go. We're gonna have a heart-to-heart with my friendo. But yeah, if you conflate socialist programs and ideas with liberalism, you're factually wrong. That's just not how any of those words work. The air outside is brisk. The lieutenant is silent for a moment. He listens to the traffic hum, then...
Now then, we should talk about the investigation, but I also feel you're a bit hazy on the RCM. Our role here, our rights, our jurisdiction, basically.
You're such a beautifully patient man. I didn't know you smoked, Kim. I have a cigarette every night when I go over my notes. It's something of a ritual. Oh man, he looks so devastatingly cool with that cigarette. How'd you get so cool, Kim? The light of the cigarette illuminates a fleeting smile. You mean this? He flicks the ash. This isn't cool. It's an unnecessary trial of will, and unhealthy. Yeah, but it made you smile. And I like getting this person to smile. It helps our rapport. Keeping the habit within the parameters he's given himself takes a lot of focus. It would be easier to simply quit. Yet, were he to quit, he would lose the cool factor. This man relishes his cool quite a bit, blow it all. Right then, the debrief. Yes. He pulls out the cigarette. It's been a long and eventful day. How do you think today went? Well, we inspected the victim's body, so that's good. It was not easily approachable in that state, but we did it. I would say our initial inspection was very thorough, and we have solid leads to follow up on. The body is still hanging from the tree, which is unfortunate, but we performed a thorough search of the premises of the crime scene. That's great. I generally prefer to start with searching the scene and then move on to removing dead bodies. It's not my job to evaluate your methodology, officer. I'm just going through the facts. As for the interviews, we weren't able to find the union leader, Everett Clare, much less interview him. So that's on the to-do list for tomorrow. We talked to Joyce Messier, but didn't get any information from her. He frowns. I have a feeling Joyce knows how dangerous the situation really is. We have to get her to talk to us. We'll work on that. She's just a fucking endless well of dialogue, so it's gonna take a bit. That's her tactic, apparently, is just to talk for hours. By the way, can I just talk about how Kim feels like one of the most fully realized companion characters in a video game? It probably helps that he's the only one, at least so far, or maybe forever. But the result is that he's got a lot to say about a lot of different things, and you actually have a relationship with him that's actually interesting. Like, down to the point where, like, even when we turn in for the night, he interrupts you to be like, no, we're gonna actually debrief about the events of today. Which, by the way, that means the game's keeping track of what happened on each day as, like, a pacing. Like, each day in this game feels like it's part of the game in a concrete, important way. In a way that I've never really seen in a video game outside of basically just Pathologic 1 and 2. Is the only game I can think of where days matter like this. You could say something like Majora's Mask, but that's like a weird thing where the days are an abstract concept that you're looping through infinitely you're looping through them infinitely, and it's like a puzzle box. Like, the days are... It's a different context, so it's harder for me to talk about it that way. I need to take a drink. I've been talking so much. There's not a lot of moments of quiet where you... where the voice gets a rest in this game, so it's a bit of a marathon run. But yeah, this game reminds me of Pathologic in that way a little bit. The way that each day feels concrete. It makes me a little worried. I'm curious. The game tells me what day it is, and in a game like Pillars of Eternity, you quickly get used to the idea that, like, nah, time just fucking flies. You rest for 8 hours whenever your health is low. You travel for 3 days whenever you want to go across the map, and you're like, whatever. There's a few systems hooked into the time that affect it a little bit to make it matter, kind of, but it doesn't really matter. Whereas Pathologic is a concrete 12-day structure where every day new things come in, and what you do on a given day matters greatly. So I'm a little curious that we're going to transition days for the first time, and I don't know what days mean. They might have just had this nice touch of having Kim talk to me about how the day went in order to kind of like just sort of reinforce the very like gritty, down-to-earth, realistic element of how this game plays out that makes it so unique and charming in the way that it is. Or it might be that this game actually does have to have a day-to-day schedule where certain events happen on certain days, and I might be missing certain things along the way, because this game's pretty ambitious. Or it might, or if not missing things, it might just be that certain things only appear X number of days into the campaign, which will kind of just naturally unfold, perhaps. We'll see. I'm so curious. If Kim is emphasizing something this much, it must really be important. Above all, though, today was exhausting. What's with all the running? You run a lot. Is that a standard Precinct 41 practice? I wonder if the game's tracking how much I've double-clicked. Like, is it that specific? Because I feel like I spent a huge amount of the day standing perfectly still, looking at the body, and standing by the picket line. Like, it wasn't until the end of the day I finally going around. I went to the bookstore, and then we really, like, like the lid really blew off, and I started doing a lot of traveling and exploring, and which was a fun difference from before. But I think he's just commenting on the fact that I double-clicked to run, which is a little weird. In day-to-day life, people don't really run. It's just a thing that I'm doing as a video game player, because I want to quickly get around, and as a Let's Player, I suppose. But in universe, it means that, like, now he's commenting on the fact that I'm like, why are we running? We're cops slowly investigating an area and asking people questions. Why are we like, I'm training for a long distance run. I don't like to waste time. That's how we roll in Precinct 41. I don't know why I do the things I do, Lieutenant Kisragi. He nods thoughtfully, tapping his finger on the cigarette. It's impressive, especially for a man of your age, and in those heels. I still have the oversized heels. He looks at your snakeskin shoes and smiles suddenly. Nice shoes, by the way. I like the green. Goes with the orange. So what are our powers exactly, the RCM? They're quite limited, actually. The power officers of the Rivashol Citizens Militia exercise most frequently is imposing fines of up to 1,000 real for offenses in accordance with the interdepartmental schedule. That's so much! Don't we make 5,000 a year and we can do a fine of 1,000? Fuck. Wouldn't that be an easy power to abuse? Yes, although indirectly, as citizens can always request records of their local station. Officers of the RCM have been known to take bribes of less than the prescribed fine amount. He frowns. It undermines trust in the RCM. Okay, what else? We can arrest people, of course, but rather than bringing someone in directly, it's preferable to serve a station call slip. It prevents confusion and overcrowding. How can we be sure the arrestee will show up? You can't. Those who don't show up become fugitives, though, and have fewer legal rights when they are eventually caught. It's about power projection. Thus far, they seem to mostly show up. I see. And if someone resists? As you may have gathered from the fact that we are expected to carry a record of our kills, like the one in your watermarks, we are permitted to use whatever force is necessary, and strongly admonished to not abuse that power. Wait, so if I kill someone while on duty, you have to supply compelling evidence for why it was necessary to use lethal force. In these cases, your partner is usually your witness. Not a good position to be in, by the way. Legal Affairs handles these cases thoroughly by cross-examining you for inconsistencies. It is hard to cover for anyone, which is for the best. What happens to people we convict? We don't convict. We arrest and send them to coalition government courts in Kurun and La Delta. The prosecution works off our testimonies and records, which is why it's paramount to keep them. He taps on his coat pocket where he keeps his notes. And who makes all these rules? The coalition government and the Morlintern more broadly. The RCM was formed by the coalition government to restore order in the international zone after the revolution. So we did. Now we attempt to maintain that order. No more, no less. His gaze is absently fixed on a window below that just went dark. Or, perhaps it is better that we say we were allowed to form. It's a point of contention whether the citizens of Rivashol or the coalition government founded the RCM. Say nothing. Silence. A great comment to such a conundrum. The Morlintern, what is it? The Moralist International are the world's largest political organization. He pulls on his cigarette. You know who they are. They run this place after the revolution failed. If I didn't know, how would you describe them? They're a union of center-left and center-right parties across the Real Belt. Our coalition government is just one of its many projects. They also run the ICP, the Insane Clown Posse, EPIS, more intergovernmental organizations in the world. What do they believe in? What do they believe in? They are DeLoreans. They believe they continued the humanist project set forth by her innocent Dolores Deye 4 centuries ago. Others say they're just technocrats. Those others say they continued the humanist project set forth by Dolores Deye. What's their symbol? Interesting question. It's a blue forget-me-not. Their motto is love, compassion, self-discipline. I think you can gauge what they want you to think of them through that. Something kind and usual. Something almost self-explanatory. Something like the dark, blue, serious color of the early night sky above. Who was Dolores D.A.? A historic figure? The author of the modern age? He thinks. You will have to look elsewhere for opinions. The subject of humanism is too abstract for me. What do you think of them? The moral in turn are a fact. I try not to have opinions on facts until they change, and he looks at the city below. It doesn't look like that's about to happen. I have an opinion on the moral intern. Do you? The lieutenant arches his brow, then pulls on a cigarette. It's a slim, white thing in his fingers. That's a lot of text. What a great time to take a drink of water. Well, that's a spectrum. You can say they're doing a bad job here. We can say that things are bad here, and then we need them here to police this place. Or you can say they've done an awful job. Have you seen this place? Or you can say that we are stooges of the world's biggest bougie organization protecting bougie rights. Or immigrants, liberal, kippets. Fucking men are turning into women. Wow. Or I don't have an opinion because I'm a centrist and I suck. Yay. To be clear, that's not actually the case, but I think the game might interpret it that way. I mean, it would be hard not to have an opinion of this because we've been living in it all day, and there's clearly 100 problems going on here. But not having a political opinion is not necessarily a bad thing about certain things. It's simply a matter of, like, the world's really fucking complicated, and there's a lot of people yelling about a lot of different things all the time, and you can't be informed about everything, and sometimes just admitting that you don't really have an opinion about something is the smartest thing to do, instead of trying to make up an opinion and then backing yourself into a corner, because the moment you make an opinion for yourself, you can get caught trying to defend it, and if you haven't thought it through very well, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to back off of it, because the moment it becomes your opinion, you kind of become committed to that said opinion, and it just kind of becomes a whole other problem. Because people really attach their opinions to their personal identity, just kind of inevitably. It's just kind of how we work. So committing to an opinion too quickly can be its own problem. That said, a centrist is more somebody who often commits to the idea of everyone's opinions are dumb and bad and wrong. And you mock them all and all that. That was some of the really... That's why people would find it disappointing, for example, if they try to come up with any kind of coherent ideology from South Park, for example. Because it just openly mocks so many different directions at once that really, the politics of South Park is more... Anyone who cares about anything is stupid, and it's easy to make fun of people that have opinions and are invested in things and put themselves out there and care about something. So actually you shouldn't care about anything, because caring about things is dumb. So just be a centrist and, you know, mock anyone who dares step out of line or does anything besides just be a boring nothing centrist. Because actually nothing can ever change and nothing can ever be improved, and yeah, just sit there on your rock and not move anything. Aren't fences great? They're not. Fences are incredibly uncomfortable to sit on. They've done an awful job here. Have you seen the place? This isn't humanism. We are in what is called the twilight of international law. The laws we claim to enforce come from the MI. Without them, we are simply vigilantes. Yeah, vigilante sounds bad. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the system that we happen to represent is itself good. He nods. Sadly, it is what we already are to the people of Martinez. Most of them, at least. Especially the Union. Vigilantes. I expect our job here to prove quite challenging. He looks at the roundabout. The lights of the orphan district are reflected in his glasses. The red and golden orbs of the motorway sliding like pearls on a string from east to west as Rivicol commutes back to the suburbs. Tomorrow is Tuesday. Monday is over. Say nothing. Just look at the night. The dying lights of the city shimmer below. Slowly, like luminous clouds, they pass on his lenses. The lieutenant looks at his slim cigarette, contemplating the next drag. Finally, he pulls on the cigarette and says, "They really don't like us here. And the mouth on that kid, Kuno. It's different inland. In Jamrock and the GRIH. Why are they like this? It's our fault for leaving this place to the dogs, to the Union, to the company, not daring to come here more often. This place has fallen between the cracks, the jurisdictions of our 2 precincts. And in Jamrock and the GRIH? He looks at the dark silhouette of the equestrian monument cutting into the night sky and says, "We run this city. West of the river is RCM land. It's incredibly hard. Human beings are." He shakes his head. "But we are in control, and it's worth it. The organization works. Our systems work. If they didn't, this city would disintegrate." I hope our investigation will help improve the situation here. At least do some good. Me too. I got the achievement, the goodest of the good cops. What is this? Really get Kim to trust you. Interesting. Ah. I got an achievement for getting Kim to really trust me. This game has 21 achievements, and of them I have 1 so far. Just that 1. Oh, there's some pretty funny lines here. Like, unbelievably boring fuck. Say 7 incredibly boring things. Say 10 traditionalist things. What's it? Okay. Hyperstellar law official. Say 7 deranged superstar lines. See deranged, so even the superstars don't come across cleanly. I should pause the game. Oops. If I'm gonna look through these. These look entertaining. The opener of the 8th seal warned them of the coming 8 times. So specifically being a doomsday conspiracy theorist kind of person. Literally the sorriest cop on earth. Apologized 10, 3 exclamation points in parentheses, times. Huh? Biggest communism builder. Employ critical theory 9 times. Truly rabid traditionalist. Say 10 traditionalist things. I don't like that suggestion. The world's most laughable centrist. Defend the political center 7 times. The world's most laughable centrist. Baddest hustler in the neoliberal hood. Preach free market for 9 times. Expert advanced remote viewer. See beyond the veil 6 times. Massive torque dork. Yak about machines 4 times. Il capo dell'art. Say 5 art cop lines. The most honorable cop in the land. Gather 11 honor points. Enemy of the physical realm. Bang up 5 inanimate objects. Aw. I pet the poor mailbox instead. The lawbringer. Say you're the law 7 times. Say you're the law. I am the law. Judge Dredd. Baddest of the bad cops. Hit an all-time low with Kim. Aw. Recruit Detective Kim Kitsuragi, Precinct 57's finest. What do you mean recruit him? Huh. And then after that, it doesn't sound like they're ideologically driven achievements. Me too, he says quietly. but I wouldn't count on any drastic changes in our lifetimes. He is very tired, but the dark circles under his eyes make him look younger, not older. Thank you for this. Hey, 30 more experience. Yeah, it's getting very cold now. Let's go. He puts out the stub of his cigarette and looks to the door.